This week we're going to spend some time working with John Bunyan's The Pilgrim's Progress, and some students do experience some difficulty with this, so I just want to go over some of it with you today. So some points to remember as we enter into our reading of this. First of all, a little bit of background on John Bunyan. He was a preacher, and he was actually thrown into jail for preaching. When Charles II took over the throne, he made it illegal to preach in any church other than the Church of England. John Bunyan didn't agree and continued preaching, and so was thrown into jail for that. He was an extraordinarily religious man, and so while he was in prison, he spent time reading and rereading the Bible, and examining his life and how the Bible relates to his life and to the life of other Christians. The outcome of that was The Pilgrim's Progress. Pilgrim's Progress is an extremely popular book. It is a full-length book. You are only going to read a small excerpt in this class. And it's extremely popular. It's been translated into multiple languages and is, in fact, second only in Christian works to the Bible for most read. And it is an example of an allegory. Remember, we've studied allegory at the beginning of this unit. If you need a refresher, please go back and review the video that I created on symbolism and allegory. One of the most important things to remember about allegory is that it has a meaning on two different levels. So, at this point, I'd like to actually go over to your text. If you don't have it open, please pause the video and open either your online textbook or your hard copy. And you're going to be opening to page 554. You will see, if you're using the online text, that there are some green pins on there for you. There's also some highlighting underneath them. Those are all notes and highlighting that I've added. If you're not using the online textbook, that's okay. I'm going to go over all of those notes today, and you can always review this video if you need to refresh your memory. If you're using the online textbook, each of these notes are clickable. So let's start from the very beginning, just so that you get off to a strong start. Now I saw in my dream that just as they, and if you had read the earlier part, you would know that the they that they're referring to is Pliable and Christian, had ended this talk, they drew near to a very miry slough. Okay. And a slough actually has two meanings, and they're both important to this. First of all, it's an area of land covered with water that does not move. So kind of like a boggy swamp, very muddy, very gross, disgusting. Not someplace you don't want to get stuck in. But slough can also mean an emotional condition in which you feel extremely sad or have lost all hope. Important to recognize both of these meanings, because remember, an allegory has a symbolic meaning in addition to its literal meaning. So, let's continue on. That was in the midst of the plain, and they, being heedless, and remember we have our vocab along the side, did both fall suddenly into the bog. Okay, let's stop for just a second. So, Christian and Pliable, walking along, and they managed to fall into this swamp, this bog. The name of the slough was Despond, and you'll see the little footnote there. If you scroll down, despond means despair or hopelessness. Here, therefore, they wallowed for time, being grievously bedaubed with the dirt, so they're stuck in this bog, and Christian, because of the burden that was on his back, began to sink in the mire. So here these two guys, they're stuck in a bog, and one guy, Christian, is starting to sink, because he's carrying something heavy on his back. The little italics means that this person's speaking. Okay. Then said Pliable, "Ah, neighbor Christian, where are you now?" And Christian responds, "I do not know." So they're working their way through this bog, though they're stuck. Pliable asks where Christian's at. Christian is lost. Okay. Continuing on, it is not enough to be pliable is the next section. So here comes Pliable again. At that Pliable began to be offended, and angrily said to his fellow, "Is this the happiness you have told me all this while of?" So apparently Christian promised that if he went along on this journey, because that's what this is, a journey, then he would find happiness. "If we have such ill speed at our first setting out, what may we expect twixt this and our journey's end? So basically this journey has been miserable from the very start, and it can only get worse. May I get out again with my life, you shall possess the brave country alone for me. So if I get out of this, I'm not going with you anymore. And with that, he gave a desperate struggle or two, and got out of the mire on that side of the slough which was next to his own house. So away he went, and Christian saw him no more. So he managed to get himself out of the bog, and he's like, forget this nonsense, this trip is too hard, I'm moving on. Christian keeps plowing forward. Wherefore Christian was left to stumble in the slough of despond alone. But still he endeavoured to struggle to that side of the slough that was still further from his own house, and next to the wicket gate, the which he did, but could not get out, because of the burden that was upon his back. So Christian's like, I'm going to keep going forward, I'm going to keep doing this, as he's heading to this place called the wicket gate. That's his destination. Because apparently at this wicket gate there is some happiness. We learned that from Pliable up here. But I beheld in my dream that a man came to him whose name was Help, and asked him where he did there. Sir, said Christian, I was bid go this way by a man called Evangelist. And double-click on that. That's someone who travels around trying to persuade people to become Christians. Very important for you to know. Who directed me also to yonder gate, that I might escape the wrath to come. And as I was going thither, I fell in here. So here comes this guy, named Help. How convenient. Important, since it's an allegory. And said, hey, what you doing? And Christian's like, I'm stuck. This guy called Evangelist told me to go this way, and now I'm stuck in this mud. And it goes on. Help responds, but why did you not look for the steps? So apparently there's steps somewhere in here that Christian could have used, but fear, okay, so that could be a character or just the idea of fear, followed me so hard that I fled the next way and fell in. So Help comes along and lifts him out. Then said he, give me thy hand. So he gave him his hand, and he drew him out, and set him upon sound ground, and bid him go on his way. So Help helps him out of the bog. So, the next section, we get some more information about the slough of despond, and what causes the slough of despond. I'm going to let you read that on your own. And then we get to this idea of the king. It is not the pleasure of the king that this place should remain so bad. Now, knowing that this is a religious work, knowing that John Bunyan's a religious man, my guess is you can probably make the leap as to who the king is that they're talking about. If you haven't made the leap, I will review it a little bit later in this video clip. But, again, make the connection. We're talking about a religious work. We're heading to a place of happiness, and the king is there. Hopefully you are seeing where this is leading. I'm going to let you actually read the rest on your own, because I want to take a moment to go over to my PowerPoint and give you kind of the two levels that this is on. So first of all, we have these characters. We literally have a character named Christian. But he also stands for something on the allegorical level. So, character Christian actually stands for Christians everywhere. We also have a character named Pliable. In the story, he's an actual character, a person, but he also stands for something. He stands for those who are easily influenced by others, those who, when the going gets tough, will not keep going. We also have a character named Help. Literally, a character in the story. Figuratively, he's the type of person that provides assistance on the path of religion. And we have this king. I'm hoping you've already made the connection that the king does stand for Jesus in this work. Okay, let's look at the setting. We've got the slough of despond. It's despair over the seeming meaningless of life, and anxiety about the future. Remember to go back to that definition of sloth, that hopelessness. So, literal setting, it's a bog, it's a mud pit. Figurative setting, it's this despair and anxiety. We have wicket gate. You may have already figured out where Wicket Gate is. I hope so. It's figuratively, symbolically standing for the gates of heaven. Remember, that's where the king is. That's his place of happiness that was promised to Pliable. Let's look at the beginning of the plot now, for figurative and literal. Christian and Pliable fall into the Slough of Despond. So that's an actual event that happens, literally. They fall into the mud pit. But, figuratively, it's when in life people grow hopeless, they begin to struggle, they're struggling in life in general, they're struggling with their religion, they're beginning to doubt. And going back to the literal plot, this character Pliable gives up, says, "Forget it, I'm not doing this anymore," gets himself out and goes home. He does not continue on the journey to Wicket Gate. And this, figuratively, is referring to those people who give up, they let religion go, they reach a point in their life where they can't overcome it. Okay, in the plot, Christian keeps struggling, but help comes along and lends a hand and pulls him out. Again, the literal, remember Christian's an actual person, helps an actual person, help physically gives him a hand, pulls him out of the mud. This symbolic, so others are continuing to travel along the path of religion, seeking that salvation, the happiness, Wicket Gate. And they get assistance from people along the way. They also get assistance from things like reading the Bible, inner reflection. So help can stand for the actual people who help along the way, but then help can also symbolize all of those other tools, like religious books, self-reflection, etc. And so the rest of the plot goes on. Hopefully I've given you enough to get you on a strong footing, and you should be able to finish your analysis and the graphic organizer with what I've given you. If you have any questions about this, please let me know. Give me a call or email me and I'll be happy to help you out. As I said, this is a more challenging reading, but I'm confident that you can finish up getting through it. You have the strong basis now to do that.